Hello, dear friends, students, how are you? Good morning. Today we are going to discuss a poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson entitled Brack, Brack, Brack. As a matter of fact, very fast when we come about the poet Alfred Lord Tennyson, the poet of a Victorian age. Victorian age that's regarded in literature 1837 to 1901. Poet born in 1809 and died in 1892. This poem was written in 1835 and published in 1842. This poem later on included in poet's longer poem entitled In Memoriam. There are 132 short poems collected in this poem. Later on, poet is known for this collection and other elegies also. The day today, the poem going to discuss entitled Break, Break, Break is addressed to poet's friend Arthur Henry Hallam. Poet's friend, not only friend, but he was engaged also with his dear darling sister Emily Tennyson. And there was a tragedy when both the poet and his friend Hallam were at the seashore swimming. Suddenly he slipped and drowned and died. Here the setting of the poem. When we come to the locate of the poem, the setting of the poem is that poet sits on the grave of a poet's friend Arthur Hallam, and the lonely hill overlooking Bristol channels. Here, dears, when we come to structure of the poem, when you go through the text, there are four stanzas. It's the very short lyric, and these short four stanzas are known for thematical divisions. Very first stanza reveals the poet's pathos, and second and the third stanza reveals poet's heart and the contrast word. Last and fourth stanza that echoes the poet's sorrow, untold sorrow on the death of his dear, and that can't be repaid. Here when we come to this poem is an elegy, in elegiac tone, and as a matter of fact in the word there are well-known elegies, as when we come Milton's Lycidas, Shelley's Adonis, and Arnold's Thyrsis. In early age, in classical age, there were the elegy writers also, and well-known elegy writers, Theocritus, Martius, Bion, Virgil. This present poem is in the list of such great world-famous poems, world-famous elegies. And the most important thing is that is to be noted down about this poem, that this poem runs in pathetic fallacy. Here let us start. Let us discuss what has been pathetic fallacy. Pathetic fallacy means the contrast word. Here on the one seashore of the sea, poet is very sorrowful in the pathetic mode, and on other side of the sea, poet finds that the activity of the word is going on. The joy of the word is going on, and later on the peace. That means here these three images have been embroidered throughout this poem. That is the very sweet one, addressed to the sweet friend by the sweet friend. Let us start having the text stingy paraphrasing and try to follow me. I also would request you that whenever you listen my video, try to go through text, have text, and again try to follow. Then you ultimately will able to understand and to go the underlying theme and thematic meaning. This poem, though the short one, but when we try to analyze critically, structurally, this poem is a short lyric that echoes the nostalgic ideology, how poet has lost in his sweet past, how poet has lost in the sweet memories of his friend. And here, structurally, this poem runs in very simple stanzas, but even there are so many structural approaches. Structural approaches and structural devices as stopper and metaphor, personification, alliteration, etc. These through the lines of when we try to deal will how. Now let us start a text and come to the text. Very first stanza, as a matter of fact, starts the title itself very symbolical. Title has a repetition. The single word has been repeated, has been applied for the purpose of repetition. And repetition in literature for the purpose of sound, for the purpose of emphasizing. Here when we go, when ultimately the word starts to pay its meaning and its depth. Here poem's title, poem's very first line, when we come, brag, 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 means dashing. Here see the waves of the sea dashing against the seashore, and it seems as if someone who has lost a recently dear one is dashing head against the earth. Poet addressing the sea. Here poet has lost in the sweet memories of his friend. Here in the opening stanza, poet addresses to the sea. Sea has been presented very symbolically. Here the sea is the symbol of the human heart, and sea has been personified. Poet addresses the sea because sea is able to reveal its heart sorrow, by dashing against the seashore. And so poet says, O thy cold gravestones of sea, in the hour that my tongue could utter the thoughts that arise in me. Here poet addresses the sea, having the sorrow in the bottom of the sea. The deep sorrow is revealed, is expressed, dashing against the shore. But here poet says that he is unable to express the sorrow of his heart. If he had such ability, such power, poet's sorrow is beyond the word. The sorrow has crossed the boundary of the bitterness, and he is unable to express his heart as his heart echoes with the great loss, the sorrow. On other hand, the poet finds that the sea is able, when she has been presented symbolically as the human being, the heart of the human. That means in the heart of the human, there are so many sorrows, so many sorrowful tales to reveal. And the sea is able, but the poet's sorrow is so beyond the power of the bitterness and the expressing. Oh well, for the fisherman boy. Here now in the second stanza, when poet finds himself unable to express his sorrow, but on other hand, at the other seashore, at the on other side of the shore, poet finds that there is a fisherman's boy, and the fisherman's boy is so fortunate that he shouts with his sister at a play. Here, the life of a sister is so pathetic. The word of his sister is lost, is doomed. And on other hand, when a poet says he finds that the fisherman boy is so fortunate, having the company of his sister, he is playing, he is very joyful. Both are joyful, they are entertaining, they are expressing their joyful heart. Oh well, for the sailor lad, and on the sea there is a sailor lad who is also so fortunate. He is rowing the boat that he sinks in his boat on the bay. How the sailor lad rows his boat freely, and he is so joyed, and singing his own song. Here, this stanza presents the image of joy. The image of joy, and now third, and the stately ships go on to their heaven under the hill. Here the image of activity, poet says how he is so pathetic, how the word of a poet is doomed. But when poet observes the word going on its way, as a matter of fact, under the pathetic fallacy, when we come, that pathetic fallacy says that nature runs in own ways. Nature runs in its ways. Nature never consoles the human being. It never cares for the human being. As here, poet has lost his friend, and he is tearful, but on the other hand nature on its way. Here, but oh, for the touch of vanished hand, and the sound of a voice that is shrill. In the stanza, poet presents indirectly his friend's death. He doesn't say directly that his friend is no more. He says, to their heaven under the hill. That means the ships are going on their horizon. They are majestically moving to their own business, to their horizon, to the business, but oh, for the touch of vanished hand. Here, vanished hand, how tragically, when a poet's friend drowned, and he tried to give his helping hand, but couldn't save him. One meaning. And other meaning also here, that the touch of a vanished hand means how poet lost his sweet friend's company. And the sound of a voice that is still, and a poet's friend is silent. That means a poet's friend is no more. Break, break, break. And now in last stanza, fourth stanza, poet again repeats that sound echo. English poet wants to emphasize how the waves of the sea, when these waves are dashing against the shore, it seems as if someone dashing head against the shore, against the earth, when one has lost one's dear. Here it seems as if a newly bride has lost her bridegroom they were going to lead the bridal bed, and having such sorrowful news, she dashes her head against the earth, and here poet finds in the waves and the striking of the waves against the shore. At the foot of thy crags, O sea, again poet addresses the sea. O sea, thou able to express thy sorrow. But poet finds himself helpless. There is no word. There are no words. Poet's sorrow is beyond the words, beyond expression. But the tender grace of the day, that is a date. And his dear friend who is no more now will never come back to me. This poem is full of sweet memory, full of nostalgic ideology. It reminds Shakespeare's a certain sonnet entitled When Session Sweet Silent Third. But in that sonnet, in the concluding part, there is the certain ideology, and there the sorrow, the loss of a friend is fulfilled, a spiritual belishment. But here poet says that there is no hope to fulfill this great sorrow. When we try to operate the lines, we find in the very first line when poet says, on thy cold grey stones, O sea. Here, as a matter of fact, when poet personifies and addresses, that means apostrophe. Apostrophe in personification has been applied in the very opening line. And when we come to the third line of the first stanza, here assonance also find, and when we deal the word o, tongue, ko, here the sound of vowel and the letter vowel sam, so here assonance. In earlier video, particularly individually, we have discussed about the consonants and assonants. Here poet says, when we come to the line, when poet says, the stateless shapes here alliteration, and when poet addresses the say here the symbol, and there are so many devices can be observed and exercised for the purpose of to find out the literary devices. As a matter of fact, Tennyson, the poet of the music and poet of the painting and the pictures, is Keats and Wordsworth, known for pictorialism. Here, Tennyson is also known for pictorialism. As a matter of fact, is contemporary Robert Browning. Robert Browning is known for the behavior of men and women of contemporary era. But here Tennyson is an individual Islander, and throughout his poetry he reveals the internal word, internal feelings, internal emotions of the human being, and here the heart of a poet as a sweet friend, for the loss of a sweet friend has been echoed, and the great philosophy has been applied. I think the poem is very simple. It's an elegiac tone for the loss of a sweet friend. It is a handsome tribute paid by a handsome friend to a handsome friend, and this poem is to be noted down for its simplicity, but for its pragmatic philosophy. I think it will be very helpful to you, and we will meet in next video. I also would like to request you, if you are able to follow, if you have any suggestion, then comment and try to follow. It will be very helpful either for the competitive purpose or academic purpose. Thank you. Meet you in next video.